Oh my gosh. Okay. Hello, beautiful. Oh my goodness. Look at these beautiful little orbs around here. Oh my gosh. I can't even believe that I get to experience this. Oh, oh my goodness. Okay. Ooh. Ah. I need to be able to start talking to y'all and channel some messages, but I'm just in love with the magic in my life and around me and these beautiful orbs and spirits that I get to see. Amazing. Okay, I need to put that screen down so that I'm not just interacting with these orbs in this way, and I'm actually able to drop into channeling the messages that we're here for. Okay. I've had this song in my head. What is happening to me? What is that? Okay. I've had a theme of the week come up in several sessions. I'm thinking of, you know what? Maybe I'm like three in particular, people I'm working with that I'm thinking about where this is shown up. And it's really these conversations about noticing the healing journey that they're on and the transformation that we're already seeing unfolding. There is more journeying to do, and they have not crossed that finish line, but we're taking that noticing along the journey. I'm thinking one of these people is maybe just finished their 5th session, and so started to work with me maybe 6 weeks ago or so, and massive transformation. So I'll get into more details, but first let me just say the overall theme is, as I'm talking to each of these 3 people and saying, how are you feeling? You are different. You look great. Your energy is just vibrating at a different level, and you are glowing from the inside out. And they are saying this to me: I'm really noticing that I'm enjoying myself. I am enjoying time with myself. I'm not as lonely with myself as I used to be. Profound. Amazing. Because a lot of times people think about loneliness as something very external, and each of these 3 people is talking about loneliness in an internal relationship to self manner. My relationship to myself has changed. I used to feel like I hated myself when I first came in to see you. This is literally one of the people that I'm talking about. 5 sessions, and the last session we did a little scale on how were you feeling about your self, your relationship to self. Where was that on your first day with me? Where is it now? Because of course I'm noticing, and intuitively I'm getting the prompt to, ooh, we need to scale this because I see that there's a shift here, and I'm wanting that person to see that also and recognize it for what it is. And it was on a 10-point scale, 2 or 3 first session, and I felt like I hated myself. And now it's 7 or 8 on a 10. There's still some room for growth there, but I am realizing that that the symptoms I was experiencing were not connected to internal deficits, right? And I can source all these different things. And I have this externalizing, this depersonalizing, this validation, this really therapeutic dynamic that, is this beautiful space holding and and sacred connection that happens with me and the other person in the room that just allows them to view themselves differently than they've ever been able to. And so it's not it's just I'm kind of mind blown really and a little bit speechless as to how to explain this, because each of these three people came in and just dropped this line rather quickly in their sessions of, I noticed this progress because I'm not as lonely with myself as I was before I started therapy, without me even having to prompt for that or having a discussion, like from the inside out, from their heart space intuitively. There's this deep transformation of what it means to be lonely, right? Loneliness can be something that is an indicator of, I have a disconnect in my relationship to myself, and it is much more internally based than one would think. And you know they are this leads to presence. This leads to mindfulness. When I'm out gardening and in my flowers, I'm not feeling lonely, doing the things that I love to do. I am receiving. It is a blessing of closing that gap between you and yourself. When you have that divine union, that integration inside, that healing, that arriving to the deeper truths of your worthiness, who you are on a soul level, and eradicating the internal conflicts with the stories we internalized from our early childhood experiences that created a little friction or dissonance with our set soul vibrational energy, and that human program patterning that is beginning to dissolve when they are moving through this beautiful healing soul work, mental emotional work with me. And now they're in a place of receptivity. I can receive, right? Because when you are enjoying a hobby that's a solo activity like gardening, this is what they're talking about. I'm enjoying what I'm doing at a different level. My capacity to experience receptivity, joy, enjoyment, fulfillment is exponentially greater now that I have come into this union with myself. I'm not lonely in my own vessel anymore. And this is touching back to one of the prior I'm like, what do I call that? Like speeches, recordings, channelings that I spoke to. Relationship to self is the foundation of your relationship to anyone else. And so are these individuals then experiencing a different level of intimacy or connection, belongingness in external relationships and interpersonal functioning? Absolutely. However, they're very much realizing that the genesis, the origin of that is coming from this light within. I have, and I'm thinking now of, again, of Maya Angelou. I have a candle holder on my desk that says, "Nothing can dim the light that shines from within." That is a quote from Maya. And I don't know what is happening fully, but she's been so on my heart. And of course, I spoke in the last video that I'm reading one of her books. So it's a piece of that. Like I'm just really connecting to that energy, but it is nothing can dim the light within, right? And I am, and that dimmer switch is being kicked up. And so they're not coming in saying like, oh, my relationship with so and so is improving and therefore I don't feel lonely. It's quite the opposite. They have their own intuitive, natural, just they know this deeper truth of my relationship to myself has transformed and I am shining from the inside out. And now the energies around me notice that and interact and move with me in this sacred dance a bit differently than what was happening before, where I was looking outside of myself for the sense of solace, peace, recognition of my worthiness. And the more I seek what is found within outside of myself, the further I get from that peace. And the more entrenched I get into those old fear based human patterns that are coming from a deficit base, right? And so it's like I am using a shovel to dig myself out of this hole. And every scoop that I dig to be able to effort towards rising up out of this, I then am like wiping my brow and setting the shovel down and going like, whew, and then looking up and going, I've been shoveling all day. Why am I 10 feet further down into this hole? And I think it's that, mindfulness and presence and coming back home to the light within. And this is the sacred divine channeling, mirroring, healing that is happening for the people that I work with inside of these sessions, which is just absolutely a gift to witness and to be a part of. And there is a higher level, just like sacred energy that is flowing through me, that is a part of this alchemy that I wish I could more fully describe to y'all and to teach and to tap into. Then I've had people say that, like, Miranda, what you are doing here is nothing I've experienced with other therapists. Are you teaching other therapists how to do this? Because you need to be. And you know what? Maybe that's some foreshadowing. Maybe at some point that'll be a piece of what I do in the future. Now my eyebrows itching as I say that. One step at a time, I suppose, of getting of being led, of arriving at this divine destination. And I should really say like the divine journeying that is happening here. So I had someone say this to me, one of these three people who was talking about this progress, say, this is amazing. And I said, it is, and I'm so blessed to watch it. I'm just the vessel. And she said, no, you're much more than the vessel. You are. I see it. Like you are doing, you are contributing. And I'm like, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I know what you're saying. And yet I feel like any of the tools that I have gathered along the way I've been led to gathering those tools. I've been blessed to be able to have the educational background that I have, right? And it's like everything that I've collected is divinely sourced so that I can be functioning at the level of the medium, the vessel that can bring this through, right? I view it almost like every different medium will tell you when spirit shows me this image, this is what it means to me, like it's a dictionary. So, what is available within my mind space, the language that I have, the toolbox, right? Like this is what spirit then has access to use. If there's something that I have never heard of in any capacity, it's going to be very hard for me to channel on that subject, right? And so, yes, it's a combination, but at the end of the day, it all boils down to being led by spirit, I'll say. So, in clinical terms, one of the symptoms of depression that people will know is called anhedonia, which is I don't enjoy doing things that I used to enjoy. And so I'm just pulling that little clinical piece into this conversation. And this is what we're noticing is my relationship to myself is changing. I feel more wholeness and peace and integration within my own vessel. And therefore, I enjoy time and space and hobbies independently to a different degree. If you feel a great sense of worthiness and wholeness inside of yourself, that actually makes sense that is linked to the level in which you'll be capable of receiving divine blessings and beautiful gifts, because the lack of worthiness resonates this energy of if I am not worthy, I must decline this blessing. It can't belong to me, right? And this is the shift that we're seeing happening from the inside out that then ends up just magnetizing these divine blessings into these people's lives. Okay, I just took a pause there for a session and I am blown away. What I just had to finish channeling about understanding that this deeper sense of wholeness and healing that is just allowing you to come into a place of comfort and peace and fullness inside of your relationship to yourself, which takes away this lonely feeling, and how that is connected to the art of receiving and, being able to receive the things that are wish fulfillments that you'd like to receive joy and peace, and love, and just like literally receiving gifts from other people. And then my client comes in and sits down and we're talking about the progress that's being made. And then she says, you know what? One of my important people in my life just called me last night to share news of this gift that they arranged, of like this vacation for me to go on with them. And I noticed that I have a very difficult time receiving gifts like that. And I just as soon rather not receive the gift. And I'm like, listen, I'm so glad you're talking about this. We're on point, and they just hand deliver it. You can't make it up. It's so beautiful. So yes, this deep healing work of the trauma, the ingrained patterns that show up in our life that keep us in disconnect from ourselves, they show up in these ways of, this person has a beautiful relation. They're full of love. Like they love this person that's giving them the gift. It has nothing to do with that there needs to be any type of like external changes there. This is internal work. So and this can come from a variety of different places, I'd say, of, is there unworthiness there? Is it like a sense of, I feel a guilt or burden when I'm receiving from other people? For this person particularly, it is more from this place of, I can't trust it. And it's not that they literally feel that they can't trust this person in present day. This is triggering deeper wounds from childhood around being in this environment where I can't trust that the good periods, the good phases, the peace and calm is going to stay. It's going to be a pocket, and then the next shoe is going to drop. It's that, what's it called? Foreboding joy. I always fumble on that word, but Brene Brown speaks to that. And So it's that feeling of, something good always turns into something bad. And it is this illusion that comes out of that trauma and that fear place of, if I don't trust this and I stay, 10 toes on the ground, then I will avoid a potential fall. I'll just stay down. And as I said, like the scooping of the trying to lift out, like I'd rather stay in this hole, because then I know nobody can ever push me back into it. Right. And when you hear that out loud, it's like, of course, that feels that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense in terms of, you deserve joy. You deserve to experience and receive and genuinely receive. And this is what we talked about, is what would you like to have happen instead of what you're noticing that you experience right now. I'd like to feel authentic, genuine, deep joy and excitement when I receive beautiful gifts like that. Because afterward, I don't feel good about the fact that I don't want this person to internalize, notice, take it personally, my reaction or lack thereof that is deeply rooted to my own unhealed wounds from my childhood, where it felt dangerous to experience excitement because it made me feel more vulnerable and exposed to the next wave of the trauma that would hit. Um, I don't want to allow myself to be disappointed. And so this again, just affirmation and validating of what we're talking about with these signs, symptoms, messages that your emotions are gifting to you. Don't ignore it. Don't run from it. Don't evade it. You deserve to have a more true, transformative healing so that you can RSVP yes to these. I'm thinking cloud nine, to these clouds that come down and say, would you like to hop on top and take a little ride? I'm just giggling because now I'm getting this. Is it from, oh, my, I'm getting the chills on the top of my head, from Aladdin, where he is like, Jasmine's on the balcony and he puts his little hand out. I shouldn't, emasculate Aladdin by saying his little hand. He puts his masculine hand out and he says, do you trust me? And she says yes, and takes his hand, and then she's on that magic carpet, right? I can show you the world. It's like, how many times does the universe need to come by and put the hand out and say, do you trust me? And we're like, nope, actually I don't. I'm going to stay down here. I'd rather not. I'd rather not experience that joy and bliss. And I am being silly about it, I know, but of course, this is not a conscious choice. We're not consciously saying, I would rather just say no to experiencing all the gifts of joy and abundance that the universe has to offer me. This is our trauma symptoms that are saying no on our behalf before we even have a chance to show up to the table. Our little, when we're thinking of internal family systems and this little protector part that shows up and is like, nope, nothing, we'll pass. And then the real us, the soul part of us, comes up and is like, wait, what? Wait, did you just decline that? Yeah, don't worry about it. I already declined it. It's taken care of. And it's like, no. I'd like to experience authentic joy and receiving. So, yes, I hope the message of this makes sense. I feel like I jumped around and there was a lot of energy to it, but ultimately, if you're noticing that you're struggling with being able to receive deeply without having a whole ton of fear about that, or a sense of avoidant coping or evading coming to the surface, that is potentially creating energetic blocks from you being able to step into the wishes and goals you have for yourself that you are so deserving of. I hope this gives you some validation and also encouragement to get connected with a healer so that this stuff can be shifted and transformed, transmuted for you so you can step into your highest timeline and be functioning from a space of more soul alignment.